In a turbulent address in Macon, Georgia, former President Donald Trump's recent rally not only failed to energize his dwindling audience, but led many attendees to make an early exit, visibly unimpressed by his increasingly unhinged rhetoric. Far from the massive crowds that defined his 2016 campaign, Trump's Georgia event starkly highlighted his struggle to maintain momentum and relevance in a shifting political landscape. What unfolded was a chaotic spectacle of rants, grievances, and unusual promises that left many wondering if Trump's once commanding presence is now succumbing to erraticism and fatigue. In an era where Trump's opponents, including Vice President Kamala Harris, seemed to galvanize enthusiasm among their supporters, this rally starkly contrasts the former president's inability to sustain his audience's interest. This video takes a deep dive into the speech, unpacking Trump's scattershot ideas, from bizarre proposals for a missile defense shield led by Herschel Walker to wildly off-topic musings on 18th-century policies and a proposed appointment for RFK Jr. on women's health issues. Each moment contributed to a portrait of a leader seemingly adrift, mired in his grievances and far from the high-energy showmanship that once electrified his base. An emptying venue. The start of Trump's Georgia debacle. The rally began, as many do for Donald Trump, with high expectations and big promises. Yet, as the event unfolded, it quickly became apparent that something was amiss. The crowd, modest by his usual standards, grew visibly less engaged with each bizarre digression. Videos from the event show a significant number of people trickling out before he even hit his talking points about election reforms and voter ID laws. For a candidate whose appeal has often hinged on his ability to attract large, loyal crowds, the dwindling attendance and early departures marked a troubling shift. Trump's insistence on rehashing his grievances about early voting, paper ballots, and voter ID sounded less like innovative policy ideas and more like tired replays. Instead of inspiring his base, these monologues served to underline his distance from today's issues. To the crowd's evident disinterest, Trump's speech continued to spiral, ranting about missile defense and Herschel Walker. One of the speech's low points, and an example of Trump's drift into the surreal, was his suggestion to put former football player Herschel Walker in charge of a new missile defense shield wrapped around the country. To a bewildered audience, he promised this defense shield would be all made in the USA. The idea itself might have seemed promising in Trump's mind, but to his listeners, the odd pairing of Walker and missile defense came across as another puzzling, ill-conceived idea. Walker, a controversial figure in his own right, hardly seemed an appropriate figure for such a responsibility, underscoring how disconnected Trump's proposals were from any coherent vision. This fixation on an impenetrable missile shield echoed an outdated Cold War mindset and hinted at Trump's unchanging worldview, a perspective ill-suited to address the nuanced threats and alliances of modern times. By tying such a critical issue to an ill-prepared celebrity, Trump's speech raised questions about his judgment, strategy, and seriousness regarding national security. The strange endorsement of RFK Jr. for women's health. Trump's speech took another bizarre turn as he openly mused about appointing Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a controversial figure known for his anti-vaccine stance, to lead initiatives on women's health. To many in the crowd, this was not only unexpected but downright absurd. Women's health is a sensitive and complex domain, and appointing RFK Jr., a figure embroiled in vaccine controversies, seemed both tone-deaf and dangerously ill-informed. In a moment that may have alienated undecided voters and moderate conservatives, Trump veered into a discussion about fluoride in water and banning vaccines. His endorsement of Kennedy as a champion for health and what we eat appeared to lack any grounding in real policy or public health expertise. The crowd's response? Silence, confusion, and for some, an early exit from the venue. A call to regress, invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Further pushing the boundaries of rational discourse, Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, promising a return to what he described as a tougher in America. The act, signed by John Adams, allowed the U.S. government to detain and deport non-citizens deemed dangerous. Trump's nod to this centuries-old legislation was a clear play to his base's anti-immigrant sentiments, but it struck many as desperate and out of touch with current realities. Trump's promise to bring America back to 1798 seemed less an appeal to law and order and more an endorsement of regression. In a rapidly diversifying America, this rhetoric felt like a relic from another time. To many, Trump's words sounded less like policy and more like a desperate attempt to reignite a fear-driven political agenda that is losing traction in the modern era. Praise for Elon Musk, a moment of incoherence. Trump's reverence for tech mogul Elon Musk has been a constant in recent months, but during this speech, it was difficult to decipher the point he was trying to make. He praised Musk as one of the few intelligent people left and lamented the scarcity of brilliant people in America. The endorsement was followed by Trump's insistence that we must protect figures like Musk, though he failed to clarify from whom or what Musk needed protection. The incongruity of his praise for Musk, who represents progressive, tech-driven ideals, alongside his regressive policy proposals, was lost on few. At a time when Trump needed to present coherent solutions, his vague admiration for Musk came across as another disjointed, empty statement, further adding to the chaos of the event. Disturbing language and vivid violence. As if the crowd weren't already uneasy, Trump's disturbing description of gang violence involving MS-13 left many looking away in discomfort. His choice to recount a brutal, graphic story of beautiful 16-year-old girls attacked by gang members was jarring, to say the least. His dramatic descriptions of slicing up with knives were intended to shock, but instead, they drew criticism for their unnecessary vividness. Rather than inspiring confidence in his ability to address gang violence, this segment of the speech likely left parents and young people unsettled. It painted a bleak and overly dramatic picture, devoid of practical solutions, and contributed to an overall sense of unease in the audience. Disparaging Biden, mispronouncing words, and a rambling closing. No Trump rally would be complete without a lengthy list of grievances against his perceived enemies, and this Georgia rally was no different. Trump returned to one of his favorite targets, President Joe Biden, taking shots at his age and mental acuity. However, his jibes lost impact as he stumbled over words like agriculture and criminals, highlighting his own lapses and diminishing the effectiveness of his attacks. In his closing moments, Trump attempted to rally his remaining supporters, but the damage was already done. The energy in the venue had dwindled, and his disjointed ideas failed to inspire a rousing response. For many attendees, the experience was likely disheartening as they watched a leader who seemed lost in his own rhetoric. Donald Trump's Georgia rally was a stark reminder of a political figure whose once fiery charisma appears to be waning. With incoherent rants, baffling policy suggestions, and an inability to sustain his audience's attention, Trump's recent speech underscored his diminishing appeal. His unfiltered, erratic style, once considered his greatest asset, now seems to alienate as much as it attracts, leaving even his loyal base uncertain. As America faces critical decisions in the coming elections, Trump's Macon, Georgia, appearance serves as a cautionary tale of a political figure who, unable to evolve with the times, risks fading into obscurity. In an age of pressing issues, from healthcare to climate change, Trump's rally did little to reassure voters that he has the clarity or vision to lead. Instead, it left many wondering if his future political ambitions are now outpaced by a legacy mired in grievance and disconnected from reality. The once indomitable force of the Trump movement now appears fractured and uncertain, a stark shift that could have lasting implications as the nation moves forward.